400 feet beneath the Atlantic, steel walls groan under impossible pressure. Inside the German submarine U-505, 59 men breathe recycled air that tastes of diesel and fear. Above them, American warships circle like wolves. Depth charges explode in sequences that feel like the fist of God hammering against the hull. Lieutenant Commander Harold Lange knows his boat is dying. He knows that surfacing means capture or death. But staying below means drowning in a steel coffin as the ocean slowly crushes them all. In 17 seconds, he will make a decision that changes everything. He does not know that waiting on the surface is a boarding party trained for something the United States Navy has not attempted in over a century. He does not know that inside his submarine are secrets that will help win the war. And he does not know that his choice in this moment will remain hidden from the world for decades, buried under layers of classified silence, because the truth is too dangerous to reveal. The Atlantic Ocean in 1944 is not a battlefield. It is a graveyard. Beneath the waves lie the remains of thousands of merchant ships, their hulls torn open by torpedoes, their crews drowned or burned or frozen. The submarines that kill them are themselves hunted, tracked by sonar and aircraft, destroyed by depth charges that compress their steel bodies into tombs. This is the battle of the Atlantic, and it is being fought in darkness, in silence, in the crushing depths where no witness survives to tell what happened. For 3 years, German U-boats have terrorized Allied shipping lanes, sinking vessels faster than they can be built. But by the spring of 1944, the tide is turning. New technology, new tactics, and new intelligence are giving the Allies an edge. Yet one problem remains unsolved. Every time a U-boat is destroyed, its secrets sink with it. The code books, the ciphers, the technological innovations that might unlock German strategy all vanish into the Atlantic darkness. Destroying submarines wins battles, but capturing one alive might win the war. Captain Daniel Gallery understands this with a clarity that borders on obsession. He is the commander of a hunter-killer group built around the escort carrier USS Guadalcanal, and his task is to find German submarines and destroy them. He is exceptionally good at this work. His ships have already sent several U-boats to the bottom, but Gallery is not satisfied with killing submarines. He wants to take one. He wants to board it, capture it, tow it back to the United States, and tear every secret from its steel guts. This idea is radical, perhaps insane. The United States Navy has not captured an enemy vessel at sea since the War of 1812. There is no doctrine for boarding operations, no training manual, no procedure. Submarines are designed to sink when damaged. They are fitted with demolition charges and scuttling valves specifically to prevent capture. Any crew ordered to board one would be stepping onto a sinking, booby-trapped steel tube filled with unfamiliar machinery and possibly hostile sailors. The chances of success are minimal. The chances of dying are excellent. Gallery does not care. He begins planning anyway. On April 9, 1944, Gallery gets his first opportunity. His task group corners the German submarine U-515 and forces it to the surface with a barrage of depth charges. The submarine breaks through the waves in a fountain of white water, its conning tower emerging like the head of a wounded animal. Gallery gives the order he has been waiting months to give: prepare a boarding party. But before his men can launch their whaleboat, the German crew abandons ship and U-515 begins to sink. Gallery watches through binoculars as the submarine slides beneath the surface, taking its secrets with it. His ships rescue 44 German survivors from the water. They pull aboard men who are exhausted, terrified, and relieved to be alive. But Gallery is not relieved. He is furious. He has come within minutes of achieving something unprecedented, and the ocean has stolen it from him. He will not let it happen again. Gallery selects a young officer named Albert David to lead the boarding party. David holds the rank of lieutenant junior grade, which means he is relatively inexperienced, but Gallery sees something in him that matters more than experience. David is calm under pressure, intelligent, and willing to take orders that might be a death sentence. Gallery explains the mission in blunt terms. If we force another U-boat to surface, you and 7 other men will board it while it is still operational, possibly still manned, certainly sinking. You will go below into a flooded, damaged submarine that you do not know how to operate. You will find the scuttling charges and disarm them before they detonate. You will locate the sea valves and close them before the boat floods completely. You will search for intelligence materials, codebooks, ciphers, anything that might be valuable. And you will do all of this in minutes, in darkness, possibly under fire, with water rising around you and the knowledge that at any moment the submarine might plunge to the bottom and take you with it. David does not hesitate. He volunteers. The training begins immediately. Gallery's task group does not have access to a German submarine, so the boarding party practices on American fleet submarines. They drill endlessly, learning the layout of compartments, the location of valves and controls, the feel of moving through narrow passageways in darkness. They practice shutting off floods, disarming charges, moving as a team in confined spaces. The training is inadequate, and everyone knows it. German submarines are laid out differently. The controls are labeled in German. The machinery operates on different principles, but it is the best preparation they can manage, and it will have to be enough. David selects his team carefully. He chooses men who are physically small enough to move through tight submarine hatches, mentally tough enough to function under extreme stress, and expendable enough that their loss will not cripple the ship's operations. They are machinist mates, radio men, torpedo men. They are not heroes. They are sailors who have been given an impossible job and have agreed to do it anyway. By early June 1944, Gallery's task group is operating off the coast of West Africa, near Cape Blanco. The area is known to be a transit route for German submarines moving between European bases and operational zones in the South Atlantic. On June 4, at approximately 1100 hours, the destroyer escort USS Chatelaine detects a sonar contact. The sound is faint but unmistakable, the metallic ping of a submerged object that is too large, too dense, too deliberately shaped to be anything but a submarine. Chatelaine moves into attack position and begins dropping depth charges. The explosions are massive, each one sending a column of water 200 feet into the air. Beneath the surface, the concussive force of the blasts hammers against the hull of German submarine U-505. Inside, the crew is thrown against bulkheads. Light bulbs shatter. Instruments crack. The boat shudders with each impact, and the men inside understand that they are being systematically hunted. U-505 has been at sea for 7 weeks. The boat left Brest, France on March 16 with orders to patrol the West African coast and attack Allied shipping. It is a Type IXC submarine, larger and longer range than the more common Type WWII, equipped with acoustic homing torpedoes and the latest cipher equipment. But the patrol has been a disaster. The boat has not sunk a single ship. Mechanical problems have plagued the voyage. Morale is collapsing. And now, after weeks of frustration, the crew finds itself trapped beneath an enemy task group that will not stop attacking. Lieutenant Commander Harold Lange, the boat's commanding officer, orders evasive maneuvers. U-505 dives deeper, twists through the water, tries to break contact, but Chatelaine holds the sonar lock. More depth charges fall. The explosions grow closer. Then one detonates directly above the submarine's stern, and the world inside U-505 becomes chaos. The blast tears through the aft section. Electrical systems fail. Lighting dies, plunging the boat into near-total darkness. Emergency lanterns flicker on, casting shadows that make the flooding compartments look like scenes from a nightmare. Water sprays from ruptured pipes. The boat begins to angle downward, nose first, sinking toward crushed depth. Lange realizes that he has no choice. If he stays submerged, the boat will implode and kill everyone aboard. If he surfaces, the Americans will probably destroy them with gunfire. But surfacing offers at least a chance of survival. He gives the order: blow all ballast tanks. Prepare to abandon ship. Surface the boat. U-505 rises from the depths like a creature, returning from the dead. It breaks through the surface in a surge of foam and seawater, the conning tower bursting into daylight. On the bridge of USS Guadalcanal, Captain Daniel Gallery sees it happen and feels a shock of recognition so intense it feels like electricity. This is the moment he has been planning for. This is the chance he has been waiting for. He grabs the radio handset and transmits the order that will change everything. Away boarding party. Do not repeat, do not destroy the submarine. We are going to take it. On the deck of the destroyer escort USS Pillsbury, Lieutenant Junior Grade Albert David hears the order and feels his heart begin to hammer. He turns to his 7-man team and gives a sharp nod. They move. The whaleboat is already being lowered and they scramble down into it, clutching pistols, flashlights, wrenches, bolt cutters, anything they think might be useful. The boat hits the water and the crew begins rowing toward U-505, which is now circling slowly, wallowing in the swells. Around them, the escort ships continue firing. Tracers arc across the water, slamming into the submarine's conning tower, tearing through the steel plating. The gunfire is not meant to destroy the submarine. It is meant to suppress any crew members who might be manning the deck guns or trying to re-enter the boat. But to the men in the whaleboat, it looks like the entire task group is trying to kill the thing they are rowing toward. They row faster. U-505 is sinking. Water pours into the hull through the damaged stern section, through open hatches, through 100 small ruptures. The boat is listing to starboard and settling lower in the water with every passing second. As the whaleboat pulls alongside, David can see that the submarine is deserted. The German crew has abandoned ship. They are in the water, swimming away, trying to put distance between themselves and the boat they believe is about to explode or plunge to the bottom. David does not waste time considering whether they might be right. He grabs the submarine's wet, slippery hull and pulls himself up onto the deck. His boots slip on steel coated with oil and seawater. He steadies himself and moves toward the conning tower hatch, which is standing open. Behind him, the rest of the boarding party climbs aboard. They are alone on an enemy warship in the middle of the Atlantic, and they have no idea what they are about to find below. David descends through the hatch into darkness that smells of diesel, mold, and something worse, the accumulated odor of 59 men living in a sealed steel tube for weeks. He drops into the control room and lands in water that is knee-deep and rising. The emergency lighting is still functioning, casting a dim red glow that makes everything look like the interior of a dying animal. Machinery hums and clicks. Water sprays from a broken pipe in the corner. The entire boat tilts at an angle that feels wrong, unnatural, as if the laws of physics have been suspended. David shouts for his team to spread out. Find the scuttling charges. Close the sea valves. Stop the flooding. They move through the submarine, splashing through water, shoving open watertight doors, searching compartments that are cramped and alien and flooding fast. Machinist Mate First Class Stanley WWII finds the main sea valve in the control room and begins cranking it closed. The wheel is stiff, corroded, fighting him. He throws his full weight against it and feels it begin to turn. Water continues pouring in from other locations, but closing the main valve slows the flood enough to give them a chance. In the forward torpedo room, Radioman Second Class Arthur Nispel searches for demolition charges. He finds one, a small explosive device wired to a timer and carefully disconnects it. He finds a second charge in the aft section and disarms that one as well, but he cannot be certain there are no others. Submarines carry multiple scuttling systems, and the German crew had time to set them before abandoning ship. Every second that passes is a second closer to detonation or sinking, and Naval has no way to know which will happen first. David moves aft, pushing deeper into the submarine checking compartments. He passes through the officers' quarters, the galley, the diesel engine room. Everything is chaos. Lockers hang open. Personal items float in the water. Charts and documents are scattered across tables. And then he sees it. In the radio room, secured in a wooden case, is an Enigma cipher machine. It is smaller than he expected, a compact device with rotors and wiring that looks more like a complicated typewriter than a tool that has shaped the course of the war. He picks it up, feeling the weight of it, understanding that this single object represents something far more valuable than the submarine itself. He calls for someone to bring a bag. They begin gathering everything in the radio room: codebooks, cipher materials, operating instructions, signal logs. They work fast, grabbing anything that looks remotely official, stuffing it into canvas bags. In the captain's cabin, another team member finds a second Enigma machine and more code books. The material is extensive, far more than they expected. There are documents labeled with German naval codes, technical manuals, patrol orders, charts marked with submarine routes. The intelligence haul is staggering, but there is no time to appreciate it. Water continues rising. The submarine continues settling lower. David makes the decision to begin hauling material topside before the boat takes them all down. They form a chain, passing bags from hand to hand, up through the conning tower onto the deck. Outside, the whaleboat has been joined by others. Sailors from the task group are swarming aboard, helping to stabilize the submarine, attaching tow lines, working pumps to control the flooding. Captain Daniel Gallery watches from Guadalcanal and feels something close to awe. His men have done it. They have captured an enemy submarine at sea, something that has not been done in living memory. But the operation is not over. U-505 is still sinking. If it goes down now, everything they have accomplished will be lost. Gallery orders USS Pillsbury to take the submarine under tow. A steel cable is attached to U-505's bow, and Pillsbury begins pulling the crippled boat through the water. The tow is agonizingly slow. The submarine wallows behind the destroyer escort like a dying whale, listing, flooding, threatening at every moment to plunge beneath the surface. Gallery assigns damage control teams to work around the clock. They pump water, shore up bulkheads, seal leaks, keep the submarine afloat by sheer force of will. It takes hours, but gradually the flooding is brought under control. U-505 stabilizes. It is still damaged, still dangerously low in the water, but it is no longer sinking. They have saved it. And then Gallery makes the most important decision of the entire operation. He orders total communications blackout. No ship in the task group is permitted to transmit by radio. No entries regarding the capture are to be made in official logs. The German prisoners, who have been pulled from the water and brought aboard various ships, are to be isolated from all other prisoners of war. They are to be told nothing about the fate of their submarine. As far as German Naval Command will know, U-505 was destroyed by depth charges and sank with all its secrets. Gallery understands that if Germany learns the submarine has been captured, they will immediately change all their naval codes. Every Enigma machine in the fleet will be recalled and replaced. Every codebook will be rewritten. The intelligence material they have seized will become worthless overnight. The only way to exploit the capture is to hide it completely. The submarine, the prisoners, the Enigma machines, the code books, everything must vanish into secrecy so absolute that even their own side will barely know it exists. The The task group begins the long journey back to the United States, towing U-505 behind them. The crossing takes weeks. The submarine is barely seaworthy, and storms in the mid-Atlantic nearly sink it twice. Damage control teams work continuously, patching leaks, manning pumps, keeping the boat afloat. The German prisoners are held in isolation, guarded constantly, forbidden to communicate with anyone. They are confused, frightened, uncertain of their fate. Some believe they are being taken to America for execution. Others think they will be used in propaganda films. None of them know that their submarine still exists. As far as they can tell, U-505 rests on the bottom of the Atlantic, and they are the only survivors. On June 19, 1944, the task group arrives at the port of Bermuda. U-505 is brought into a secluded dock under heavy guard. Intelligence officers swarm aboard and begin cataloging the captured material. What they find exceeds their most optimistic projections. The two Enigma machines are intact and functional. The code books cover months of German naval operations. There are technical manuals for new acoustic homing torpedoes, documents detailing submarine patrol routes, cipher tables, recognition signals, every piece of information needed to read German naval communications in real time. The material is immediately classified at the highest levels and transported to Washington for analysis. Analysts at the Navy Department and the code-breaking operations at Bletchley Park in England begin integrating the captured documents into their existing intelligence framework. The impact is immediate and profound. Allied convoy routing improves dramatically. Hunter-killer groups begin finding German submarines with uncanny accuracy. U-boat losses spike. By the summer of 1944, the Battle of the Atlantic has turned decisively in favor of the Allies, and part of the reason is the intelligence flowing from a single captured submarine that Germany does not know exists. The acoustic torpedoes recovered from U-505 are reverse-engineered, allowing the Allies to develop countermeasures. The patrol routes extracted from the code books help planners predict where U-boats will operate and position forces to intercept them. The Enigma machines themselves, though the Allies already possess other captured examples, provide confirmation and updates to cipher procedures. Every piece of the intelligence puzzle makes the next piece easier to place, and U-505 has provided pieces that Germany believed were safely destroyed. But the secrecy comes at a cost. The men who captured U-505 cannot tell anyone what they have done. Lieutenant Junior Grade Albert David receives the Medal of Honor for his actions, but the citation is deliberately vague, describing only that he boarded and secured an enemy submarine. It does not mention the intelligence haul. It does not explain why the operation mattered. The crew of the boarding party receive commendations, but they are forbidden from discussing the mission. Even their families are not told the full story. For the sailors who risked their lives on that June day, there is no public recognition, no parade, no acknowledgement that they accomplished something that helped win the war. They are ordered to remain silent, and they obey. Some of them will carry that silence to their graves. Captain Daniel Gallery becomes one of the few officers who understands the full scope of what the capture achieved, and it torments him. He knows that his task group performed one of the most successful intelligence operations of the war. He knows that the men under his command deserve recognition, but he also knows that revealing the truth would compromise ongoing operations and endanger lives. So he says nothing. He writes nothing. He allows the official record to show that U-505 was destroyed, and he locks the truth away in classified files that will not be opened for decades. The submarine itself, meanwhile, becomes a problem. It cannot be destroyed because it is too valuable as a source of intelligence and training material. But it cannot be displayed because its existence is classified. The Navy tows U-505 to a secure facility in Bermuda and later to the Portsmouth Naval Shipyard in New Hampshire, where it is kept hidden under guard, a ghost ship that officially does not exist. The war ends in 1945. Germany surrenders, and the need for secrecy surrounding U-505 begins to diminish, but the classified designation remains in place. The submarine is transferred from naval custody to a storage facility where it sits for years, slowly deteriorating. By the early 1950s, the Navy is considering scrapping it. The boat is old, obsolete, and expensive to maintain. But a group of veterans led by Captain Gallery, who has been advocating for recognition of the capture since the end of the war, proposes an alternative. Donate the submarine to a museum. Let it become a memorial. Let the story finally be told. In 1954, U-505 is given to the Museum of Science and Industry in Chicago. The transfer is logistically insane. The submarine weighs over 700 tons and must be transported from the coast to the middle of the continent. It is loaded onto a barge, towed through the St. Lawrence Seaway, across the Great Lakes, and up a canal to Chicago. From the canal, it is placed on rollers and physically dragged overland to the museum, a journey of more than a mile through city streets. Thousands of people line the route to watch. It takes weeks to complete the move, but eventually U-505 is positioned outside the museum, where it sits for decades as an outdoor exhibit. In 2004, the submarine is moved again, this time into a climate-controlled underground exhibit space within the museum. It is restored, preserved, and open to the public. Visitors can walk through the interior, see the cramped compartments where 59 men lived and fought, touch the controls that kept the boat submerged. They can see the conning tower, scarred by gunfire from the day it was captured. They can stand in the radio room where the Enigma machines were found. The exhibit includes detailed explanations of the capture, the intelligence value, and the men who risked everything to board a sinking enemy warship. The story, hidden for so long, is finally public, but by the time the full truth is revealed, most of the men who lived it are gone. Albert David died in 1945, killed in an airplane crash just months after the war ended. He never saw the submarine he captured displayed for the public. He never knew how much his actions mattered. Many of the boarding party members lived long lives, but they spent most of those lives unable to speak about the one day that defined them. They carried the secret because they were ordered to, because the mission required it, because they understood that some victories are too important to celebrate. The story of U-505 is not a story about technology or tactics. It is a story about decisions made under unimaginable pressure. Harold Land decided to surface his submarine rather than let his crew die in the depths. Daniel Gallery decided to attempt something that had no precedent and no guarantee of success. Albert David decided to descend into a flooding, booby-trapped enemy warship because someone had to, and he had been chosen. Every one of those decisions could have gone differently. Lange could have kept the boat submerged until it imploded, taking the Enigma machines to the bottom. Gallery could have followed doctrine and simply destroyed the submarine, eliminating all chance of capture. David could have refused the mission, or died attempting it, or failed to secure the boat before it sank. Any of those outcomes would have erased U-505 from history, but they did not happen. The decisions were made. The mission succeeded. And for a brief, crucial period in 1944, the Allies possessed intelligence that Germany believed was safe, and that advantage helped turn the tide of the war. The ocean keeps its secrets well. Thousands of submarines rest on the seafloor, their hulls crushed by pressure, their crews entombed forever. U-505 should have joined them. By every reasonable measure, it should have sunk on June 4, 1944, destroyed by depth charges or scuttled by its own crew. That it did not is the result of skill, courage, and a sequence of decisions that defied both probability and doctrine. The submarine now rests in Chicago, hundreds of miles from the nearest ocean, surrounded by children and families who walk through its corridors and marvel at how small it is, how claustrophobic, how impossibly fragile to have survived combat in the Atlantic. They do not see what the sailors saw: the darkness, the rising water, the seconds ticking down before detonation or sinking. They do not feel what the boarding party felt: the terror of descending into an enemy warship that might become a tomb. But the submarine remembers. Its hull still bears the scars. Its compartments still echo with the ghosts of the men who fought and bled and drowned inside it. And somewhere in its steel bones, the memory of June 4, 1944 remains, the day that impossible became real, the day that a handful of sailors changed the course of history and then vanished into silence because the mission demanded it. If you found yourself in Captain Gallery's position, would you have given the order to board? If you were Albert David, would you have volunteered to descend into that flooded submarine, knowing the odds of survival were minimal? These are not hypothetical questions. They are the questions that define what it means to serve, to sacrifice, to understand that some things matter more than individual survival. The men who captured U-505 answered those questions with their actions, and their answer was yes. If this story resonated with you, if it gave you a glimpse into a moment of history that almost vanished into secrecy, then please consider subscribing to this channel. Leave a like if you believe stories like this deserve to be told. And in the comments, tell me, do you think the risk was justified? Would you have made the same choice, knowing what we know now about the intelligence that was captured and the lives that were saved? History is not made by nations or armies. It is made by individuals who face impossible decisions and somehow find the courage to choose. The capture of U-505 is proof of that. And the fact that you are hearing this story now, 80 years later, is proof that some secrets are too important to remain buried forever.